Mystery of the senses. A Nova miniseries with Diane Ackerman. Tonight, the sense of smell.
We're about to embark on a journey through the world of smell. And we're going to start at the Statue of Liberty of all places, where a real smell celebration is in full swing. The fireworks are for Champagne, a new Yves Saint Laurent perfume. This is Champagne's gala coming out party. The perfume, not the drink. It's amazing how much sensing happens at a snazzy shindig in the dark. There's lots of conversations to hear and sights to see. And there's plenty of tasting to work off. There's touch. This is a fabulous party, and all for the sake of a smell. We've come so far as a species, yet we shy away from our natural odors. Instead, we pamper ourselves with created fragrances to lure the heart of someone special. Will Saint Laurent's perfume succeed? Who knows? If women like it, or believe men are attracted by the scent, maybe. Of course, this is all a far cry from the natural history of smell. That story begins deep in the oceans of geologic time. Before there were animals on land, life thrived in the seas. We still carry the primordial ocean within us. Our blood is mainly salt water. So are our tears. But today, down here, we are aliens. This watery medium is filled with chemical messages, a primitive form of smell. Can sea creatures smell? I can barely talk underwater, and I have no sense of smell in this strange world. Most sea creatures have a detailed sense of smell. Sharks can scent food miles away and follow an odor trail until they spot their prey. To these fish, our bodies are just leaky bags of chemicals. That's how this lobster knows I'm after it. A combination of taste and smell detectors sense my body's chemical odors seeping into the water. Once we left the ocean, a brand new chemical sense became possible, the one we humans call smell. Now that I'm up here in the air, I can smell all sorts of things. The ocean itself, which is a curious combination of salty and organic, a little bit of gasoline from the motor, and even a fragrance of neoprene from the suit. Now, my lobster friend here smells underwater with his antennae, so up in the air, he can't smell the kinds of molecules that I can. But I suppose he has his own favorite smells, just as we do. The tantalizing aroma of fresh-baked bread and other aromatic treats send us running for the table. While a rose's velvety sweet smell can spark 1,000 private memories. That we are surrounded by a parade of smells is not extraordinary. What's amazing is that we can identify and remember so many. Every odor molecule we inhale has a unique size and shape. This is a fishy smell. Here is camphor. The brain identifies a specific smell by the shape of the captured molecule. With every breath, odor molecules travel up the nose. They quickly reach a sheet of moist, mucus-bathed tissue where they plug into receptors located at the ends of stringy structures called cilia. The cilia are outgrowths of neurons, millions of sensing cells, that collect and transmit smell information to the brain's olfactory bulb. And with 5 million sensing cells at our disposal, we humans can distinguish thousands of odors. But the real smell champ is the cockroach. Tom Eisner is about to place the odor of a female cockroach in this glass beaker.
And here comes the sexual presentation. Now you can see how they're all activated, and you also can see that in addition to being activated, they're converging on the source. They're converging on the rod, they're inspecting it with the palps and the antennae, and as soon as they've identified it as female, they rotate around, and as you can see, they're actually attempting to copulate with the rod.
We humans can't detect the scent, yet male cockroaches can smell the female's odor even though its donor has been dead for 20 years. Smell for many creatures is really a super sense. They use it as intensively and as accurately as we use our vision and hearing.
We're a diurnal species. We do things in the daytime. We use our eyes. We can also generate sound, witness. So we communicate by sound, we communicate by eye contact, and we're so acoustical and visual in our conventions that our biases are acoustical and visual, and we tend to be oblivious to the fact that chemical communication is taking place all around us by every type of organism, literally, that inhabits this earth. Different organisms are attuned to different chemical signals, each in its own way highly sensitive to the particular signals that mean something to that organism. In finding food, they may be sharply attuned to certain odorants from food. In finding the opposite sex, they may be especially attuned to substances produced by that opposite sex. Different organisms use different molecules, so there is no ambiguity in this tremendous noise of signals that we're surrounded with.
Miami Airport. A dizzying swirl of activity and smells, some artificial, some natural, but not all of them legal. These are drug-sniffing dogs laying their noses on the line in the fight against crime. With 200 million smelling cells at their disposal, that's 40 times what we can boast, They're one-dog armies, true crime busters. Miami Airport is a well-known drug smuggling center, but finding concealed drugs would be next to impossible without the help of these masterful sleuths. Deputy Agent Bouncer is a veteran smell hound. He's checking this plane to see if drugs have been stashed in seats or panels. Wait, Bouncer has found something. His assistant will radio for help. The target area needs to be dismantled. Drugs were here all right, but now they're gone. Perhaps they'll have more luck in their luggage area. Here, canine agents must sniff through dirty socks and underwear, cologne and toothpaste, ancient leather and space-age plastic to find the illicit smells.
Dogs, they don't smell the same way that we do. They have what you might call a sight picture of an odor. Whereas you might smell a pizza, a dog, in his mind, sees every item on that pizza. You know, if there's 20 ingredients on the pizza that make up the pizza, he knows each individual item. The dog, if you were to put marijuana on the pizza, will be able to pick out the marijuana from the pizza. He's looking for one specific odor.
Evening turns to night and still no finds reported. But tons of cargo are left to sniff. Sometimes big shipments are uncovered in the warehouse.
A dog like mine here can go ahead and clear a warehouse in about an hour's time. To do the same warehouse with the personnel, we'd need probably 20 personnel and take a full 8 hours to be able to do a warehouse completely. There's a big advantage to using dogs.
Today, after long hours on patrol, agents will find nothing. But their past success keeps them on the alert.
But actually, the most marijuana he's ever gotten was like 6,800 pounds out of Bogota, Colombia, in fact. So we never know where we're going to find it, but he thinks it's always there, so we keep looking.
They'll be on the job again, bright and early tomorrow. Success in the world of fashionable smells is even rarer. But Sophia Grossman has created more top-selling perfumes than just about anyone. Her latest triumph, Champagne, is the celebrity at this sparkling party. Sophia is called a nose, which means an elite perfumer. She has a gift for mixing scents and an extraordinary memory of smells, a combination that has brought her to the top of her profession.
She liked it for a while.
Sophia works her magic at the International Flavors and Fragrances Organization.
Whatever you can find.
Companies that need a designer smell will often come here looking for just that right spark. Some of Sophia's creations, Eternity, Trésor, White Diamonds, have names that are relaxed and elegant. But the work is long and hard, an intuitive blend of art and science.
Now let's compound that and see what it looks like. Okay? Okay, I'm going to now take the formula and give to Cornelia to make. Cornelia, let's make that formula. We need at least 154.7 grams. I think it's inspiration and perspiration that makes you a good perfumer. And I think you have to experiment and experience things. You have to be aware of all people and smells around you. And a lot of this comes from childhood memories. When I was a little girl, I was actually surrounded with all grown-ups after the war, and my toys were the flowers, the field flowers that were growing in Belarus where I was living at the time. And I was always fascinated with the flowers, so I used to take them apart and suck the honey and smell them and collect them and do all sorts of things with the flowers. And many times I returned to that and tried to kind of reproduce the effect, that floral effect that I remember loving it as a child, in the fragrances also. The last experiment is much better, it's working. But what we need to do is to make another fresher top note.
A perfumer is like an alchemist, producing new scents by combining liquefied forms of artificial and natural odors. Fine perfumes contain hundreds of smells. They will include the bewitching aromas of flowers and fruits, and heavier base scents like sandalwood and musk. Mixed together, these molecules somehow form lovely bouquets. This model and this nose belong to George Dodd. He is a chemist exploring the horizons of smell research.
Now, if we look upon perfume now, not as an art form, but as a scientist, and using our scent to smell, which is exquisitely sensitive, in fact, much more sensitive than people will have you believe, we can analyze all perfumes in the world like this, and we find they consist of 3 different types of molecules. There's an army of molecules tumbling out of this bottle. And the first wave of the army are quite small molecules, citrusy, very volatile molecules, easily get into the air. And they're the top notes. They're followed by less volatile materials, typical floral notes like jasmine and rose. But the real heart of the perfume, the real biological work, the biological message, is coming through much bigger molecules, the base notes. They're very unvolatile, and in fact they really have to be on our skin for quite some time before they warm up, before we can really smell them. And hence we can understand the logic of the perfume consisting of the top notes and the middle notes and the base notes, because the top notes, being volatile, help drag along the middle notes and help drag along the base notes. Otherwise, if we made a perfume only from the base notes, we'd have to hang around for a few minutes before we could get a decent smell sensation. And that really is the kind of molecular logic behind every kind of perfume.
Scientists can distinguish most of the molecules that make up smells. The mystery is why we prefer some smells to others.
Is there any reason to believe that men would like a certain type of perfume smell which women wouldn't, and vice versa? And there we begin to gradually move from the area of science into the area of mystique and culture-laden ideas. Because in fact, when people are allowed to choose smells without them being labelled for them, we often find that women adore classic woody smells, which are supposed to be characteristic of men's fragrances, and conversely, men will like very light floral smells, which are typically labelled as feminine. They are culturally bound ideas, which are the reflection of our perceptions of what is appropriate in our society.
Sophia Grossman lives in 2 worlds: the smell landscape that surrounds all of us, and the new kingdom which she helps to create. She has just been asked to develop a male fragrance, something she's never done before. She specializes in dreaming up fragrances that make women more alluring, not men, and the artistic challenge will be demanding.
Well, making a men's fragrance is rather difficult for me because I am specializing in very feminine accords, floral, sensual accords, and in order to make a successful men's fragrance, it's got to be very powerful with all basically masculine accords, which is a little bit difficult and against my nature. Although I like a wonderful fragrance in a man, and some of them are very sexy and special, and I will tune into that. But on the other hand, it is difficult because difficult for me to kind of transform myself into another area where I never tried to do anything yet.
Sophia and her assistant start testing combinations. They know their client will be highly critical. There's a colossal amount of money and prestige at stake. They begin their creation one drop at a time. In another part of IFF, drops run to gallons as already approved fragrances head for the mass market. And that market is vast, far larger than perfume alone. This factory panders to our paranoia about smells. Here they manufacture pine and lemon scents, flower and citrus, pleasant outdoor smells transformed into liquid chemicals for household cleaners, soaps, and air fresheners. We perfume everything that touches our lives.
Very good.
Oh, you could do this forever.
You didn't wash the hands before?
No, I couldn't.
She has a wash. I can guarantee you she has washers.
Actually, a couple of them. Go for it.
Hours of research go into deciding how to make a product smell like it's doing its job. In a world where competing products all do the same thing, the right smell can mean millions in sales and profits.
So, Harold, what I'm trying to do here is get away from the traditional pine and citrus and go to a more spicy floral potpourri connotation. What do you think of that?
That wasn't bad, not bad. However, the spicy note, I think, was a slightly overdone. If you can just cut back a little bit on that, I think that would be much better.
Okay. I mean, I think just adding a little freshness will work. I just hope it doesn't have too much of a food-like connotation.
It's a nice green note, I like. It's a good body. A little heavy, though.
I think this one to me is a little bit too sophisticated. Maybe if you can...
It's a bit heavy in the floral.
Right, freshen it up a little bit with some fruitiness,
Sure.
lighter, make lighter. For the younger age group, it would be perfect. But it has nice strength.
A bit too sophisticated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? I think the pine is a little bit too harsh. I think it's a little bit strong. So I was thinking that if you can sort of cut down on the pine, it would be a lot better that way.
Well, if I cut down on the pine, Harold, I'm going to lose the strength. So what I'll try and do, I'll try and cover it up with some soft floralcy.
Okay.
Maybe a fruity note, like...
I think the fruitiness, though, if it starts getting a little bit too sweet, you might lose that concept of cleanliness.
Okay.
So I would prefer not to go in the fruity direction.
Okay, but how about a citrus fruity?
That might not be a bad idea,
Okay.
yeah. But let's try the floralcy first, and then maybe a little bit of the citrus note.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Creating pleasant scents for profit far outdates the chemistry of modern smell making. That quest has been continuing for millennia, and in many ways it began in the Middle East. In Oman, the sense of smell still reigns supreme, and this shop supplies all the fragrant essentials of such a society. Bin Asker is a purveyor of smells. Among his boxes and bowls, he's like a medieval apothecary with a potion for all occasions.
This is dried resin of a tree we call dragon's blood. It grows on an island off the coast. If you grind it up and put it on a bad skin, it will make it smooth. This is khalinger. We use it in our incense mixture. You break it up and mix it with musk and ambergris.
These nuts and woods, barks and resins, dried flowers and leaves are often mixed together and burned in Omani homes. They also burn this substance, prized in biblical times. It is still a rare and special gift in the Middle East. These translucent amber droplets once bespoke the wealth of nations and commanded huge prices. Mighty kingdoms grew and prospered along its sprawling trade routes. It's a gum resin whose name is as beautiful as it is aromatic. This is frankincense. Twice a year, in the spring and the autumn, Musalim comes with his camel to harvest frankincense. Who would think these twisted trees and tortured bushes contain two of the world's legendary aromas, frankincense and myrrh? Musalim is one of the last collectors. Long ago, those who mined the trees for their sappy gold grew rich. Now, world demand has fallen drastically, and Musalim barely makes a living. Autumn is the best time to tap the trees, but they can literally be bled to death. Musalim's art is to know just how much to extract without killing them. He has cut the bark down to the resin ducts, which exude the tree's milky tears. The fragrance comes from a volatile oil sealed in the resin. White frankincense is the finest.
I remember the days when us collectors used to go up to the desert highlands to harvest the frankincense. The best trees grow up there. You know, there are caves, and we camped in them for the whole season while we did the cutting. The merchants used to send our food up to us so we could keep on working. The camels brought it. They went round all the camps, exchanging food for the frankincense. That was how the work was done. Always the same thing, year after year.
Lonely harvesters like Musalim once formed the backbone of a mighty incense industry. Today, just a few tons are gathered. But long before the time of Christ, the industry was already producing 3,000 tons a year. Camels hauled the precious cargo along ancient desert routes. Towns controlling the trade became kingdoms, and the caravans fed them all. The Egyptians thought the droplets of frankincense might be the sweat of their gods fallen to earth. In their burial ritual, safe passage of the soul to the afterlife depended on one's mummified body being steeped in enough fragrance. Frankincense could also protect the living from evil, from disease, and from malevolent spirits of the night. With such heavenly backing, the frankincense trade prospered for centuries. The Arabian Sea laps the southern coast of Oman. Little ports like Marbet and Suda are quiet now, with only occasional reminders of their glory. From here, ships bore frankincense eastward as far as India. This is the house of the merchant Salim Amir. He's still an important man, known for fair dealing with the frankincense cutters. Their greeting looks like rubbing noses, but they're actually sniffing. A good smell means spiritual health. Breathing it in demonstrates trust. Salim Amir needs to know exactly where Musalim gathered the frankincense. The quality varies with the height of the trees. Careful sniffing confirms it came from one of the best places. The price is agreed upon. It will be high since the quality is good, and they'll divide the profits 50-50. A handshake and a sniff seals the deal. The role of incense in religious life is as ancient as the faiths that still dominate our world. Western churches have long burned frankincense. God, it was said, gave it to Adam with gold and myrrh to comfort his exile from Eden. But why should a scent have such spiritual power? And what was so special about frankincense? Wouldn't any woody smoke do? Perhaps the lingering sweetness of incense was needed to conceal the stench of burnt offerings or the body odor of the gathered faithful. But was there something else that made its sweet, hypnotic smell so attractive?
Incense is one of the most emotive words we have when it comes to smells. Incense evokes wonderful feelings of religiosity, spirituality. It makes us feel at ease. It taps into memories. And here we have to be ever mindful of the fact that our sense of smell is programmed deeply into our memories. In fact, there's very good scientific evidence now. We really never forget many smells we are exposed to without even being aware of the exposure.
In fact, there are specific areas in the brain where smell memories are received and stored. Smells can spark emotional reactions too. The route for smell information goes from the olfactory bulb to centers in the brain related to emotion. Here we find responses like aggression, fear, and sexual arousal that smells can sometimes trigger. Scientists like George Dodd are exploring that mysterious link between smell and human behavior, especially sexual behavior.
Indeed, when you think of erotic interactions between humans, it very rarely occurs to us to think of our sense of smell being involved. But in fact, when you are intimate with somebody, you literally have stepped into their atmosphere. The subtlety, of course, is that it's your unconscious mind that's actually working. And it behoves us for a moment just to remember that literally our life starts with a breath. We leap out into this world, we take a breath, we suck in smells from around us, we are cuddled into our mother, and literally the first smells we encounter in life are human musky molecules on our mother. And the baby-mother attachment starts right at that point. And you could almost say, in a Freudian sense, our erotic potential for smells had already started right there. So now we come to the whole question of musk.
The male musk deer secretes a strong, earthy scent that attracts females during mating season. Naturalists have long observed musk's role as a sexual attractant for deer and other animals. And we humans do have musky-smelling molecules on our own skin. Early perfumers discovered that deer musk seemed to invigorate their fragrances, as if borrowing the deer's sexual appeal somehow improved our own.
When we look at the history of perfumery, we see that our ancestors in caves thousands of years ago took the components of animal musks, added them to flower oils, and created perfumes. And every successful perfume on the international market has these animal notes at its heart.
So what's going on? Is it just the power of persuasive advertising? Or do certain ingredients, such as musk, trick us into feeling sexy because we believe they're sexy? Or do they really cast a magical spell over us? The trendy women of Manhattan are wearing perfumes with amazing names: opium, obsession, poison, vendetta. There's even one called pheromone. It sells for about $300 an ounce, which is rather expensive. But what price aphrodisiac? Musks, pheromones, aphrodisiacs, all of these are chemical messengers that arouse erotic feelings. Remember our cockroaches? Their sexual behavior was driven by pheromones in the female's scent. Pheromones are smell molecules found on the skin, in urine, in sweat, and in sexual secretions. Humans also produce them, but their proven effect on our behavior remains controversial.
Now, when it comes to the question of human odorants and pheromones, we've some very clear technical questions now. The technology of chemistry allows us to measure perhaps 50 different types of molecules in our skin. Soon we'll be up to 100. And we have clear and decisive answers to the role of some of these materials, because when we look at the chemicals, the molecules in our skin, the smelly molecules, we find molecules of exactly the same shape and size in other animals, like pigs and goats, for example. And in those animals, they behave as frank sexual pheromones, sexual messages between the two sexes which initiate sexual activity. In other words, they are aphrodisiacs in the classical sense.
How powerful are pheromones? In France, truffle farmers know how to get the most out of a pig's attraction for pheromones. This healthy sow smells the sexiest boar in the world, only for some reason he seems to be underground. By a strange twist of fate, gourmet mushrooms called truffles smell exactly like boar musk. And when she smells them, the female pig goes berserk with desire. all she can find are splotchy mushrooms. The farmer's delighted, but for the sow, how confusing.
Là, on peut la peler, on peut la manger rapidement, puis elle sent bon, elle sent très bon.
Truffles are so important in France, there are regional festivals in their honor. People flock to the market each year to assess the season's delicious crop. Experienced buyers smell for quality, inhaling the strong, musty aroma that some believe arouses erotic feelings in humans as well as pigs.
Voilà la bonne truffe. Le diamant noir du Quercy, avec sa saveur, sa bonne odeur, mais qui est aussi aphrodisiaque.
We certainly have an interesting link with truffles, because we know that truffles has as its key flavor ingredient a molecule which is the sexual pheromone of the pig. Now we have that same chemical in our bodies. That probably explains why we have this unconscious longing to indulge in truffles. And certainly it hints at the possibility that that is also playing a role in sexual attraction with us. And of course, as you know, in the traditional musk of perfumes, there are also similar molecules. Now, when we come back to the same molecules in our skin and we ask what they do for us, there the answers are much less clear. We know that they affect our moods and we know that we are very sensitive to them. It's very difficult to see, though, very powerful aphrodisiacal effects. But I think it would be very fair to say that if we were making a choice between being with two equally attractive people and one had more pheromones than another, despite the fact that most people wouldn't be aware of using their scent to smell consciously, you might prefer to be with one person and find them more agreeable than the other by measuring their pheromone content literally with your nose.
One known source of pheromones is good old-fashioned sweat. Some women find sweaty male bodies intoxicating. But is it the imagined thrill of the man's body, or is there a real body chemistry of pheromonal molecules at work? One person who appreciated such distinctive male odors was Helen Keller, who used her acute sense of smell to compensate for her vision and hearing loss. She wrote, "In the odor of young men, there is something elemental as of fire, storm, and salt sea. It pulsates with buoyancy and desire. It suggests all the things strong and beautiful and joyous, and gives me a sense of physical happiness." Helen Keller could not see or hear a male approaching, but she could smell and enjoy all his subtle aromas. I must say, it does smell good in here. Some smells we were just born to love.
Basically, men are smellier. We produce more smell than females on average. But in addition to that, we are less sweet. The uranous heavy molecules, the key animal notes in perfumes, men tend to make more than women. And that raises some very interesting questions for the design of perfumes.
Gloria is making it right now.
And then we'll put it on skin?
Yes, we should put it on the skin.
And I want to compare it against...
Of course, if the smell business were all a matter of molecular chemistry, the formula for success would be simple. Sophia Grossman would just add a pheromone to her new male fragrance, and voila, love zombies. No one has managed to bottle human musks and pheromones, despite all we know about the fine aphrodisia of animal secretions. And in their pure form, animal notes smell ferociously foul, so a skilled perfumer will always be needed as a master juggler of smells.
Doesn't like John that much. Does he love this one?
No, he just gave it to me to show me. Because she had said about it being a new gay.
But in the smell business, scent judgments are highly personal, and the client for Sophia's new male fragrance will be the final judge of her formula's appeal.
I like the warmth of it. I think that it's starting to come together much better.
It's less of those traditional notes as
Yes.
well.
Well, it doesn't smell traditional at all, actually.
Anne Gottlieb, a noted nose herself, is representing the client. She knows Sophia well, and despite the friendly banter, will ultimately recommend Sophia's scent or reject it.
This is a happy fragrance. It really is. Smell it in comparison to this, because I don't think that this is any more masculine. This just has this pitch that we're looking to build into your submission.
Gottlieb is not satisfied.
There's also a little bit more depth, I think. You know what, Soph? Let's look at it on a men's skin. Maybe you're responding to it because of Tammy's skin. Let's look at it on Nicholas's skin.
Possible.
Okay?
I'm looking at Tammy. I cannot think men's
Right,
fragrance.
so let's look at it on Nicholas's skin.
That's right,
Is that okay?
back it off.
Are you clean? Yes?
Today.
Do you have clean skin?
Yes.
Good, okay.
Which one should I try?
Let's just try this one.
Sophia's,
one?
yeah, that one.
I always love smelling on men's skin because the hairs tickle my nose.
Yes, exactly.
Try it
Makes
here
the
and
huge
see,
robe,
see if
you know.
that's better. Is it very different than the dry down? Do you smell the difference? Even though this is really newer, it's not different enough. It's still not enough of a pitch coming through. And I really think that you need to go back and play with that top note some more.
Yes, yes. Maybe I have to increase the body part first and then look for another dimension.
What's our deadline? When do we need to?
We really are
Yes.
in a hurry for this. How soon do you think that you can have modifications?
I'll try my best.
Sophia must try again. This is not uncommon. Perfumes rarely succeed on the first try. But now the pressure is on.
You mean you're not working Saturday?
Sometimes.
Only
up to the four.
Well, we'll all have the fragrances for the weekend.
Right.
Today's Friday. We'll have them
Okay.
for the weekend.
Right.
We'll reconvene on Monday with new with your comments.
Okay.
I'm
think that we
knowing
should meet
Sophia, she will
Monday?
continue to work.
I'm sure. Do you want
all
to meet?
weekend.
Do you think we should meet Monday?
Oh, I think it should be
Yes?
Monday afternoon, maybe.
Okay.
So we have an opportunity
2:30, would
to.
that be
work in the
okay?
morning.
Is that okay?
2:30 is good.
2:30 is great. Soph, you around? You okay?
Yes.
I
2:30.
don't have any appointments on Monday.
Good.
Okay,
I'm
2:30.
always
Now. You do now.
So 2:30 and Gottlieb.
Great.
Fragrance for men is not a problem in a society permeated by it, and shopping for perfume is a favorite masculine pastime in Oman. These men like to enhance their masculinity with perfumes, and they know exactly how to do it. Not everyone would find such heady fragrances attractive. These exotic odors are buried deep in the culture and memory of Omani people who cherish them as their own. Tonight, the men will perfume themselves as their ancestors did. Or they will create slightly new fragrances from mixtures of scents that they find pleasing. In this society, creating a fragrance is not difficult. The centuries have eased the way.
At one point they were saying that I'm doing better under the pressure than off the pressure. And they decided that the more pressure they're gonna give me, the better off I'm gonna be. So they all sit on my neck. But this is, it's stupid because, you know, this is that much I can do. Gloria? I like that 7B. It's very good. Can I have that formula and let's... Thank you. Let's see if we can add a little more.
Sophia Grossman and her colleagues work long into the night.
Most of the skin has been used today
We'll
already.
get other skin later. This is good. This is good. I will tell you what I need here. In the 33, I think there is more of that something that they are not liking it, the spicy thing. But I think it's very important here again.
What they don't like about it is on top. But after a while, I mean, initially when you put your nose up to it, Sophia, it's got I know you don't want the citrus part, but it is very citrusy. Okay? I mean, but after 15 minutes or so, it's a little brighter to me.
Yeah, of course. That's what we're trying to do.
I know.
It's not easy.
I know.
The next day, to her disappointment, Sophia's fragrance was rejected. This is where her unused formulas end up. In the barred and bolted morgue of industry secrets. It is a vault of records, the backup to Sophia's extraordinary olfactory memory. In this industry, no one succeeds every time. Tomorrow, there will be a new challenge. And who knows, perhaps another grand party. Soon, millions will be able to sample Sophia's latest creation, but its ultimate success will be determined by sales as well as the beauty of its bouquet. That's because smell is a big business and an art form. When we give someone perfume, what we're really giving them is liquid memory. One smell can be unexpected, fleeting, and yet carry us across time and space to forgotten moments in our lives. Those smell memories linger deep in the brain, but they're always ready to spirit us straight back to childhood or create great expectations of things to come.
Mystery of the Senses was produced by WETA Washington and WGBH Boston, which are solely responsible for its content. A production of WETA Washington and WGBH Boston.
This is PBS.